It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex Social Trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Good morning, 24th of July 2019, 8 a.m. CET. Piotr here, meaning this is a pre-London Open live market coverage here only on Light Forex global YouTube channel. The things are starting to be much more interesting than what we've seen at the very beginning of the week. But before we jump into the charts, trying to go through a few majors, as usual, risk warning, guys. Please bear in mind trading FX on margin, trading crypto on margin carries a high level of risk, may not be suitable for investors. You can sustain a loss of some or all initial investments, so please do not invest the money that we cannot afford to lose. Seek education, gain experience before risking real money. However, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Okay. Just the friendly reminder, as you can see on the belt below the charts, right after London Open, so 9:10 a.m. we have another meeting. We are going to cover European PMI live. We will see. It might be a little bit of the hint what we might get tomorrow when we are going to get the European Central Bank rate decision and press conference. So of course tomorrow we are going to cover European Central Bank rate decision as well live. Hi random name, thank you for your comment, thank you for your input. I think of course it's easier today, but I think I've mentioned based on the CFTC report, short pound was the most crowded trade lately, so I think market was short into that event already. No major spike down. We'll see. It's, we are still below 125 on the pound, and we are going to discuss pound in a second. We are going to connect with Michał. We are going to discuss this pound with Michał. We are going to discuss market reaction on the pound within the next 10 minutes. But anyway, thank you very much for your input. We are going to cover ECB live tomorrow. All right. Nothing extraordinary when we are talking about Asian session. Just Australian dollar, just flash manufacturing PMI and flash services PMI, both weaker but both above 50. So from that perspective, when we are talking about the Australian dollar with the neighbor, with Kiwi dollar, we were trying to get back above 50. That's what I've been talking about, right? Because I've been looking to try to trade long Aussie Kiwi when we were around 104.50. There were few moves during the Tokyo session. I missed. Then we saw the breakdown and move toward breakdown of 104.50, move down towards 104 and break through the 104. I thought that we are going to revisit 103.60, 103.70. We reversed the move. Again at the very beginning of this week. Okay, so taking into the consideration what is going on right now, I'm watching closely current price action, because what we do right now, we do retest Monday high that also equals to what we've seen at the very beginning of the July, meaning that over the course of yesterday, right, we retest monthly open and we retest this 1st of July low. Of course, bulls needs to go above 104.50, otherwise the retest of this 360 because of this initial breakdown towards the end of previous week might be the case. So let's switch a little bit lower here on Aussie QE. Let's switch to 1 hour chart. Let's have a look what we have. And when we are talking about this week price action, right, compared to what we had previously, so that was the initial sell-off at the very beginning of this week, all right, and we haven't quite tested yesterday, right, after the break to the upside. So I do expect, I think that's the first intraday demand, so I do expect that market may want to try to move a little bit lower from here. Market may try to go a little bit lower from here to try to hit these stops, but I'm going to watch 104.10 and then again a little bit lower. So that's the crucial zone in my opinion. Everything above 104 right now, it might be crucial from the bulls perspective to avoid the situation that we are breaking lower and trying to revisit 103.50. But Aussie dollar is a week when we are trying to watch versus US dollar, right? And we got back below 70 psychological level, but also 70.10 is a yearly open. So we again below, and bulls were trying to do huge job. Unfortunately, it looks like it was not enough. So from that perspective, it's worth to watch either that's what been tested during the Tokyo session and what been discussed previously, right? That's the first possible demand zone. We are talking about the high and daily open from the 9th of July, all right? And if we are going to break through, we might open 69.20 again, okay? It's gonna be crucial here around 69.70. It's gonna be crucial not only because of possible demand zone, but also because of this dynamic trend line. So we have 2 points and we are going to test the trend line here. On the other hand, this MT4. Okay. On the other hand, weekly open levels around 70.40, right? And this week high 70.60. That's where supply resides. I'm pretty sure right now. Okay, it's going lower to 1 hour chart. We have possible demand broken. So from intraday perspective, I'm going to watch this 70 psychological level as well as 70-10 yearly open. And because we are below right now, if we are going to see during the London session attempt to go higher, that might be the opportunity to try to short it and finally reach 69, 70, 69, 60, and where we are going to go from there. And the last one, when we are talking about the Australian dollar, the last one is a pound Aussie, because there was no major shock from the Boris Johnson side. No reaction. That's also what random name mentioned. There was no spike to the downside on the pound. It looks like we are trying to at least recover a bit, right? So from that perspective, I'm going to look what's going to happen over the course of the day today, right? It might be that we are trying to find some kind of the bottom here on the Australian dollar versus British pound around 77 level, 76.50. We have this nice bounce, but you know, it might be just that cat bounce for now. So overall, it's gonna be very interesting to see what's going to happen when we are going to retest 78.50, right? Of course, the best price action would be to retest, to see the pullback, holding this 77, 76.50 and strong rally and trying to hit another supply, and in that case that's going to be something around psychological 180 level, and then another pullback higher. Similar situation we had with this move to the downside, right? After the breakdown, retest, lower retest, and looks like we might try to at least consolidate around current levels. Very interesting situation with Australian dollar and overall commodity currencies is that the stocks hit new high, US stocks hit new high, but we haven't seen huge yen crosses rally. We haven't seen huge commodity block currencies rally. So it's very interesting where we are and what we are going to get. Anyway, we are going to have a time to discuss it right now because we spoke about the pound Aussie dollar, meaning that we are switching toward the toward the British pound. So we are going to discuss yesterday event with Michał. We are going to ask him few questions and then after the conversation with Michał about the yesterday event, we are going to go through the pound chart. In relation to euro crosses, right, of course, right after our meeting, right after London Open, we've got another meeting in relation to EU PMI, so we are going to discuss euro crosses during the second meeting. So give me a few minutes, stay with us, and I'm going to try to connect with Michał.
It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex Social Trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Testy, 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 1, 2, 3. Hi, Michał, good morning, how are you doing?
Test, test. Hello, hello. I'm fine, pretty fine.
Cool.
Very, very good. Your morning?
Actually, I'm trying to wake up. I'm joking.
Trying to wake up.
All good here. I wonder what we are going to get today. We should finally see some fireworks on the market towards second part of the week. All right, what you've got for us today?
Briefly about yesterday's Johnson's election. As we know, he won the election of the Conservative Party leader, as also he will be the new prime minister today after the resigning of the Theresa May. The Northern Ireland Democratic Unionist Party backed him, so he has the majority in the parliament. And his ambition is to unite the divided kingdom after the Brexit referendum, and he pledged that he will do everything what he can to make a deal with the EU. And if they refuse to negotiate, he will leave the union without a deal, which is a really big concern for the market. It might have terrible effects. It can shake the markets and push the UK economy to deeper recession or even worse. But it's a very discussable topic. But we can say that what is interesting on the market, the Bank of England lately revealed the information about the growth for the 6 months till April of the London FX market, which shows us that it's despite the worries about the leaving EU, the FX market in London is very healthy, is having a good time, right? Despite the lower volatility, but it's because I think it's because every major central bank turned dovish, and on the market traders like to have some differences between the bankers in the monetary policy, so they can make bets on the currencies. But as we see yesterday, I would like to talk about the euro pound, which was, I think. It was like a euro sell-off at this currency pair. I think it's because more like weaker euro than the stronger pound after this event. I think it's because of the upcoming data. What is interesting about the pound is with the US dollar. Yeah, it should give a strength to the bulls, give a reason for the bull run in the short term at least. But all that we saw, that it was stop hunt. I don't know if you agree with me. At the level of the opening day, they just spike high, and then Peter, are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, I asked you about something, and yeah, right now we're just consolidating, and I think that with this pound, I think we will see the stronger pound later after the announcement of the GDP data from the US. If the estimates are correct, I think we will see some run in the short term of the bulls. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
Yeah, that's what we discussed. That's what we discussed before we connect. That's what I've been trying to answer the random name about the no pound reaction. Actually, I think one of the reason was that market is or was already pound short into that event, and agree with you that there are very interesting next 7 days towards the end of the month, because we do have today EU PMI, and someone may argue, it's not gonna be important because we have ECB tomorrow, but ECB tomorrow might depend a bit from what we are going to get today. So we might see again the move ahead of the major event one day before, right? So in that case, it might be very easy to be trapped trying to trade, for example, ECB tomorrow. Now, Friday, what you've mentioned about the US GDP, the thing is that I agree, but I've got also in my mind that next week we have FOMC, right? And trying to get and pack everything into one basket, I think that we might be sure that we are going to get a little bit higher volatility. But about the direction, we have to be very, very, very careful. So yes, step by step.
Yes, step by step. I think, as I said on the previous meeting, our call, that I think if the data will be correct with the estimates, or even a little bit worse, it might push the Fed to lower the rates by 50 basis points, and that might cause a bigger move. On the Europan, we are on the strong support at the moment, and I will be paying very, very closely attention to this currency for the short term. As we can see, also the PMIs will be very very important, because we also saw that the readings are worsening from the past I saw 1.5 year till now. So I think it might push the pound on the verge of this of the yesterday's action even lower. And I think we can see a change of the trend, because right now it's
there's a very interesting and important situation here on Europound. That's what we are going to discuss after our conversation. We are going to cover cable and here Europound, because we are on the verge of the bigger breakdown, and that's something we were discussing previously. I'm going to cover it after our conversation. Michał, anything else would you like to add?
I would like to ask something, because what do you think about the trading today? Because we have today the data from the euro. Yesterday we have this straight actions about the pound, and upcoming the GDP data from US. So maybe we should maybe you think we should switch for the other currency, other pair with the pound, like Swiss franc, or
That's what I've been discussed before we connected. I discussed pound Aussie dollar, for example, right?
Pound Aussie. Okay, sorry.
So
the US dollar.
that might be, of course, that might be the case. I also mentioned that I'm quite surprised because here we have to add another thing. Yesterday, late U.S. stocks rally. It was mostly because of the news that. The US guys, US trade guys are going to meet face to face with Chinese officials as early as next Monday. So that was again pumped that stocks. But the thing is that we pumped stock only. There was usually when you have this kind of the risk on situation, that should be positive for commodity currencies, that should be positive for yen crosses, right, to the upside, and we haven't seen that, especially if we are going to add that we also have Bank of Japan next week, right, where the expectations are for ultra dovish comments. So I'm quite surprised why we are on the dollar yen where we are right now, instead of, for example, with those expectations around 110, not 108. So it's, for me, I think the next 7 days is going to be a challenge for everyone.
And, it's also interesting that you've mentioned about this face-to-face talks, and another thing about that might be a problem during the conversation. Except the Huawei situation, there's another problem that the U.S. Had to impose sanctions on the Chinese company, energetic company, about which cooperate with the Iran state, and as we know, the USA impose very restrictions on the trade with the Iran right now, and that may be, and they are of course against that sanctions from the US. So it's another reason that can make a problem during the conversation, during the talks.
And we were discussing about this previously, and I think that Mr. President Trump is stepping through the very, very thin line, because he doesn't need any kind of the agreement right now. We are year ahead of the election, so he doesn't need that right now, because then it's gonna be very, very hard to keep that stocks going to the upside. So looks like his campaign started with, all right, new high on the stocks, and he would like to have it towards the election. So right now it's gonna be all we got from the White House administration right now in relation to this talks with China. It's like pump this market right now, and trying to hold the major announcement closer to the election. You know, there are some stats that usually the president is elected for the another term once the economy is doing well, and that's what I think is a plan for President Trump here. But it's a very thin line. He started too early, in my opinion. It's gonna be challenge, especially that his opponents. I think it's clear game from the President Trump side. So his opponents exactly know what's the name of the game, and that's gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, I think he would like to be like a savior at the end of the before the election, then pump the market, and everything will be fine.
We will see. Michał, thank you very much for your input. Time is a little bit running out, so I have to apologize here. But what I know, we have another meeting 9 a.m. CET. We are going to cover EU PMI, and you are going to join us, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. Thank you very much for your input,
See you later.
and see you within the next 45 minutes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, and goodbye. All right, so let's have a look what we have after this discussion about the Boris Johnson. Let's have a look what we have from the Euro-Pound perspective. And here we were testing some supply above 90 last Friday. We closed the week below psychological 90 level, right? So what happened on Monday, we might call as a retest, rejected yesterday, and what Michał said, we are testing very important 89.50 level. Of course, because of where we are just under 90, so the current move is in a little bit favor of the sellers, I would say, especially that if you remember, we were discussing intraday chart quite a few times here, especially from the perspective of where we are. So we had these 3 exact touches, and you know, if you remember, I held 3 educational webinars in June. and all of them are recorded and available in the archive section here on the Light Forex Global YouTube channel. But I've mentioned when we were here, just let me explain everything again. When we were here, right, I said exact touches usually don't work correctly. I've mentioned that we are going to make stop count to the upside again, especially when we got back above trend line. So there was an attempt to break lower, quick reverse, and boom, right? So finally we got this stop count. Also, what I've been talking during the webinars, that usually this type of the moves, we are ending either with double top where the second top is a little bit higher than the original one, right? So usually it's this type of the price action, or we are ending this type of the move with some kind of the pattern similar to head and shoulders. And actually, if you are watching this 1 hour chart here on Euro Pound, that's what we actually have right now. We do have something looks like head and shoulders. Now, there was, but it's a history, right? We have to look today. There was a chance to try to, from the intraday perspective, to try to join the party to the downside after the failure, right? Yesterday here around the 90 level. So today, what's the option for today? We might see, in case of the no huge disappointment from Euro PMI, we might see attempt to rally, but I think right now that either we are going to face supply around those upper shadows from yesterday, and we are talking about the levels closer to 89.80, 89.85, or we are going to hit few more stops to try to retest 90.90.10 level, something like this. All right, and we are trying, we will see this type of the bigger rally, and then eventually a little bit more sell-off because of eventually expectations of the ECB tomorrow. Now, very interesting thing when we are talking about these expectations, because last Friday the money market was the chances of the 10 basis point cut from the ECB that was pricing in 60% almost, but yesterday afternoon it was well below 40%. So, you know, it looks like for me, what I'm trying to tell you right now, it looks like for me very similar situation we had with this event yesterday in UK with Boris Johnson, right? So market built the expectations, but market was short already into that event. So similar situation might be here with ECB, that we were building these expectations, 10 basis point cut, very dovish, and you know what? When we are watching euro dollar, we already broke through 1180, significant demand zone, right? So for me, looks like market might be very euro short toward ECB. So if we are not going to get what was the overall market expectation, if we are not right now, if we are going to approach ECB from around 111 or maybe even below 111, it might be that if we are not going to get 10 basis point cut and ultra dovish comments, we might see some dead cat bounce, we might see some short euro dollar covering, and we might see actually bounce back towards 112, for example, on euro dollar, right? But we are going to discuss euro dollar. We are going to discuss euro dollar during our second meeting a little bit later today. So that's how I see the things from euro pound perspective. I'm going to try to be the seller on rallies, but I'm going to watch very carefully this 89.50 in case we are going to see, because you know, again, just to be perfectly clear, I don't want anyone to be biased by what we are talking about. usually we trying to have two possible scenarios from bulls and bears perspective. So in case we are going to continue here to the downside through this 89.50, right? So in case we are going to invite sellers because of the neckline break, right? But immediately we are going to see reversal. At some point, I might consider some longs, right? If there are going to be some kind of the trap and we quickly reverse and move back above 89.50, something might be here. So please don't hesitate, join us within the next half an hour. We are going to cover EU PMIs live. And finally, cable, right? There was a rally yesterday. We retest weekly open, rejected, no new low. We actually, if you remember, we were discussing few levels yesterday and we hold the last one actually. So we'll see. Monday low is being tested right now. I'm talking about 24.55. Weekly open 24.80 and 25.20 as a possible intraday supply to the downside. Yesterday low and then previous week low. That's the targets for bears. We are going to watch this during our second meeting. We are going to start with the next half an hour. So we can call it right now as some kind of the coffee break. And of course you have to use another link to join us. Again, 9 a.m. CET, so 10 minutes after London Open. You are more than welcome to join us. For now, that's it from me. Have a great London session and see you around. Goodbye.